Okay, well, it's 3 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here on time. You are all professionals. This is what professional people do. They live punctuality. And we start our session today, which is on moral courage in the classroom, teaching students to stand up for what is right. And this is a very important topic considering that we are living in a world right now where parang moral courage is in a crisis. We're going to see that later. And we're going to look into bakit moral courage is in a crisis. And why is it so difficult for the young people today, especially among the teenagers, to live moral courage? Okay, a little quiz, a little checkup, diagnosis if you want. Um, what would your students do if they know everyone among their classmates are cheating? Lahat sila, nag-cheat, copying, cut and pasting, cutting and pasting from ChatGPT and Wikipedia. And then they're the only ones who want to play fair. And they complain to you and they go to you and say, Sir, bakit ganon? Yung mga classmates ko, obvious naman ang cheating. So, do you tell them to tell on their classmates? Do you ask them to, sige, give me a list of your classmates and report each one's cheating strategy? Or do we address the class and make it a concern of the whole class? What do you do? These are real scenarios that happen inside the classroom today. And then copying during an exam or um, bullying their classmate into sharing the assignment with them so that they can copy it so that they also have something to submit. These are all old textbook strategies of cheating, and we know they're happening. So then, what do we do? How do we teach our students to be that one who stands for what is right, who is not afraid to be called squealer? Well, even in bullying, in the cases of bullying, this is at the root of the problem. Alam ng mga bata alam ng mga estudyante who are the bullies and who are the victims and the kind of bullying that takes place, especially pag wala ang teacher. Especially if no one is looking, no one is watching, no one is supervising. And then the students are in this conspiracy of silence. The teachers are clueless. Magugulat na lang sila, lulusob ang isang magulang asking to meet with a class advisor to complain because my daughter, my son, is being bullied and is afraid of going to school because he is always made fun of, bullied, picked on by his classmates. And then the teacher gets surprised. Huh? I don't know anything about that. Let me investigate. There is the conspiracy of silence. Ibig sabihin, ay, kulang ng moral courage. In the first place, the student leaders. And then, for that matter, you don't have to be a student leader to stand up for what is right. You just have to be a good human being to speak up and to tell the teacher, Ma'am, sir, kailangan nating tulungan itong classmate ko kasi he or she is being bullied, being harassed. So, we have this as our objectives for this session today. Intindihin natin kung anong ibig sabihin ng moral courage, what is the nature of moral courage, so that we are able to, well, devise a strategy, a plan, a system by which our students can have moral courage. We will explore practical ways to be able to build the moral courage of our students inside the classroom. You see, and this is something that they will need for the rest of their life. From the very beginning, this is our fifth of 10 sessions already. And from the very beginning, we have always been talking about, ang pag-uusapan natin dito is how to develop character in our students, because good teachers are not just interested in helping their kids, their students, pass a subject, pass a quiz, pass a test, pass the school year. Our objective is to see our students grow up to be good men and women of character, regardless of what subject that is entrusted to us, that we are asked to handle: science, math, English, Filipino. When your principal saw the email about this series, kung ang principal, pinadala niya lang sa seminar na to ang guidance teachers, values teachers, ibig sabihin, yung principal na yon does not have a complete picture of what a good educator should be doing. Because this series is not just for guidance officers, class, how do you call this, values teachers, religion teachers. This series is for all teachers who want to be great educators, who are not just interested in covering the curriculum, finishing a textbook, but really making an impact in the lives of their students. Because kahit anong subject ang tinuturuan natin, we are in a position to make sure our students will be good and do good, not just these 10 months that they're inside our classroom, but for the rest of their life. And one of those that we want to plant, really put in the mind of our students, develop in them, foster in them, is moral courage. We're going to look into practical ways on how we can do that, regardless of what subject we are handling. I want to equip you, myself included, because I too am a teacher, with strategies that will encourage values-based decision making. So, this is our objective, and I think you and I will agree, oo nga, kailangan natin to. Kailangan ng mga teachers ito ng science, math, English, Filipino, social studies, lahat ng teachers. Yesterday, we especially talked about the coaches, the sports directors, people in charge of athletics, and clubs, and student orgs. In a special way, the student councils, the moderators of the student councils. Well, now we're going to talk about, especially for any subject teacher, teacher of any subject. Moral courage is the most valuable, but usually the most absent characteristic in men. All you have to do is look at 24 Horas, TV Patrol, headlines of the day, not just these wars that are raging in different parts of the world, but even just locally. Our politicians, who are supposed to be public servants in the service of especially the poorest in the community. But you look at how these people in power make decisions. Is there moral courage? There is a problem there. And the ones who especially are in a bad position are the young ones who are supposed to be learning from the adults, from the older people. So, let's try to find out, ano nga ba ang moral courage? Moral, we understand, doing good, doing right, choosing to do good, choosing what is right. Courage, kahit mahirap. In fact, many times, that is how I personally define character. Character is all about fostering among our young people, the young people, to do good, to be good, the ability to do good and to be good, even if it is difficult, even when no one is watching, and even if others are not. And this is in a crisis right now because really you look around and you feel like parang the world had become full of evil. I mean, okay, we see good people every now and then. But in the news, what they want to highlight normally is bad news, bad people, uh, criminality. That's what they highlight. Sabi nga nila, bad news sells, good news does not. That's why newspapers have to count on, yes, wars, political bickerings, infighting, because that's what sells. That's what people look for. No, our objective is to see our young people grow up to be good and doing good, even if it is difficult, even when no one is watching, and even when others are not. So, this is moral courage, the courage to do what is right, even when it is difficult, unpopular, or risky. And then you think about classroom setting. Bakit hindi gumagawa ng mabuti many times ang mga estudyante unless may punishment that awaits them, or unless you offer a reward, unless you force them into telling the truth and speaking up. And why? So it's a tough challenge because we live in a world right now that you can describe to be the age of likes and shares. This is the digital generation. This is the selfie generation. This is the social media generation. We live in a world where bashing has become such a, like, the order of the day. You look at somebody being lambasted in social media, you look at the comments, thousands of comments, sometimes even without reading the complete news. But people today feel like they have the right, the obligation, and the duty to join the fray when somebody is being bashed. That's the kind of world we're living in right now. The age of toxic popularity and cloud chasing mindset. People who equate um, worth with the number of followers. And you have now many young people so obsessed with increasing their followers, increasing their the likes that they get, clout chasing mindset. This did not exist, by the way, just 15 years ago when there was no social media, when there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Wala ito 15, 20 years ago. So therefore, we did not have any problem with that kind of mindset, wanting to get more followers, more likes, more comments, more reactions. That's why moral courage is in a crisis, because the world now is designed for that, to be popular, to have followers and likes, not about being good and doing good. It's not anymore about, and in fact, you have people now, you have young people who want to do good if it will increase their number of likes and followers and comments. So I know young people, for example, let's put it this way, typhoon, okay? No classes. Students have a lot of time now for social media. Look at what they're posting. They're posting about, ang hina ng internet dito. Oh no, brown out. I have to use my data. They're complaining. And then a few days later, it becomes a fad to be collecting goods for the victims of floods, for those who are suffering. And so they post about, hey guys, donate naman kayo ng goods, because they think that's a way to be able to get more likes, more followers, more. It becomes a fad. Not they start doing the fundraising not because they really want to help genuinely, but because that's the in thing in social media. That's the When 2 days ago they were complaining more about the Wi-Fi without thinking about, teka muna, may mga nalulunod na doon, may mga nawawalan na ng bahay, may mga nasa bubong. Hindi lang Wi-Fi ang nawala sa kanila, buong bahay. Buong buhay. So this is the kind of world that we're living in right now. We have to highlight more, uy, do good, be good. Kahit walang nakatingin, kahit walang magla-like at mag-share ng post mo. Physical courage, madali kasi it's visible. Alam natin, you're really facing a visible danger or harm. But it's the moral courage that is in crisis. Kasi ito hindi mo nakikita, hindi mo napapansin. Hindi ito, it may not be obvious. Facing rejection, facing shame, facing isolation. Okay, here are some everyday examples inside your classroom of moral courage. Signs of moral courage in a student inside your classroom. Have you witnessed any of these? Students, for example, who refuse to cheat kahit ang buong klase, yun na yung mindset. Kahit yung alam nila, classmates nila, even the class president, even the one running for valedictorian, resort to these cheating strategies. But they refuse to cheat. Why? Not because paparusahan sila, not because may nagbabantay, but they simply know it is the wrong thing to do, to cheat. Therefore, they don't. So they refuse. They have students like this, they stand up against bullying. Kahit walang nagbabantay na teacher, they speak up. Even if they will become unpopular, even if they will look like KJ, Killjoy, kasi the others are having fun picking on a student, picking on a poor kid. But no, this moral courage of students makes them stand up against bullying. Do you have students like this who will report wrongdoing, not because they are sip-sip, not because they want to have a good name with a teacher, but because they know that's the way to help these classmates who have developed, um, well, wrong mindset, wrong ways of doing things. They report in order to help, not just for poggy points for themselves, but because they really want to stand up for what is right. Have you witnessed any of these students? Students who resist peer pressure to gossip? Trivia. A 2020 survey found that 63% of Pinoy teens, they admitted to cheating, witnessing cheating in class. Pero only 12% reported it. Why? Bakit ayaw nilang i-report sa teacher? Because they fear being labeled as sip-sip or killjoy. That is where we have now the courage gap. Okay, sabi ko kanina, it's in a crisis because students struggle to do what is right. At the root of that is fear of rejection. They fear that their classmates will reject them. Kasi yan, KJ yan. Kasi yan, masyadong straight, masyadong hindi, walang pakisama. Ayan. That's how they put it, ano? Walang pakisama yan. Huwag na natin isama yan. Magsusumbong lang yan. So, nakikisama na lang sila. And they join the conspiracy of silence. They join the immoral activities, the immorality. Here's at the root of that challenge, the desire to belong, to get peer approval or adult approval, similar to that first one that we pointed out. That's why it's a challenge for them. Moral courage is in a crisis because partly of this. Or simply they have developed a confused sense of right and wrong. For example, this thing of cutting and pasting and then submitting it as their work. Ang isip nila, but it's available. It's in the internet. What can I do? It's art of studentry. Yan. They already have a confused sense of right and wrong. For some people, I tell you, for some students, it's not cheating. Using, for example, ChatGPT to create their project and then to put it in another website that will rehash the wording so that it sounds more like a human output and then submit it as theirs. And they don't find anything wrong with it. They put their name like as if it's really their output. Okay. You see, the because of all these new technologies, new devices available for everyone, it has become gray area. When, at what point can you say that using ChatGPT is not cheating? Because, by the way, it can be a good tool, it can be a good resource, as Wikipedia is a very good resource, as the encyclopedia, the published, printed in 20 volumes, was a very good resource. But to directly copy and then paste in your output and then submit it with your name, claiming that it is yours, that's plagiarism. And it continues to be plagiarism if it is not. And yet, many people now have a confused sense of right and wrong. You push that to the case of bullying, of a student being made fun of, and then when the investigation is done, sasabihin ng mga bullies, ma'am, but that's how we deal with each other. That's just how we are. We are lucky. I mean, happy going. So, nagkaroon na ng confusion of, teka muna, asan yung right and wrong in these things? Here's the other reason why it's in a crisis. As I said, all you have to do is look at the headlines of the day. You look at the elected officials, public servants, world leaders, and you see, is that the perfect role model for our young people? Are the young people learning what it means to be good, to do good, even when it is difficult, even when no one is watching, even when others are not, with what they are seeing in the adults? They lack role models. That's why one of the strategies we discussed in the previous sessions is this role modeling. And we've been tackling Primed of Marvin Berkowitz. The letter M there keeps on coming out, keeps on coming up in every session. The young people have to see teachers as role models because modeling is one of the most important, most useful, most effective tools of character formation. So we mentioned this already earlier. This is a unique generation, unique environment, unique setup of this many of these things that we see today, the digital culture, digital lifestyle, immersion in technology. Many of these things did not exist 15, 20 years ago. And so we are still grappling now on how to not just to make sense of this and how, especially, to form our young people in digital citizenship. Many teachers are not yet ready to um, use, I mean, to navigate this world that the young people find themselves in. So, why are students struggling to do what is right? Because they mentioned this earlier already, yung pakikisama. They are afraid to lose their connection with their friends, with um, the cool guys inside the classroom. Yeah, similar to that, Filipino cultural factors include hiya, same. And then, lastly, utang na loob, the debt of gratitude, even when it is wrong. So all these contribute to making it difficult for our Filipino teens, for our kids inside the classroom today, to really develop moral courage. Albert Einstein, what is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. So that's why we have been saying moral courage is in crisis today. Top 5 reasons. We already touched on practically all of them. But here are more. Bakit in a crisis ang moral courage? Because now we see, again, this is something that did not exist before. Cancel culture or the fear of social backlash. Wala naman yan dati, di ba? These things did not exist. They only started existing with the advent of social media. That's why now you have to be very careful because you may have students taking a video of you shouting, screaming, yelling, and then they post it, and you are going to receive a backlash, and you are going to be victim of bashing, and the whole world will condemn you without even knowing the true story, without even knowing really the truth about why did you shout, why did you scream, why did you get angry. This is the kind of world that we live in right now. Mas pipiliin pa ng iba na manahimik kaysa maging target ng group chat kasi they don't want to be canceled. Yeah. Moral courage is in a crisis because we see this digital conformity, the tyranny of likes and followers. Social media rewards pleasing content, not principled stands. That's why teenagers are constantly seeking online approval. And standing up for truth often goes against the crowd. If standing up for what is right costs you your followers, will they still do it? Will they still speak up and fight for what is right? And then we mentioned earlier this gray areas of standards of right and wrong, moral confusion. We now see, in, especially among Filipino teenagers, itong relativism. We have been affected by the Western globalization, the colonization of um, quote unquote values from the West, where freedom is given more premium than responsibility. And so that's why you have um, countries that see abortion, for example, not as murder, but as a right of a woman. Uh, health, reproductive health. Ay, teka muna, di ba pinatay mo ang baby? Paano yon? May buhay yun ah. Ano, this moral confusion that envelopes the world now, we're very lucky here in the Philippines. It is not as pronounced, but it is seeping in because we are very westernized in our lifestyle, and then we live now in a global village. We've heard that a long time ago, but it's even more real now given the connectivity, the connectedness of the whole world because of internet and because what is happening now there in the Middle East is right in front of us now. We know um, at every moment what is happening everywhere. So we have this model confusion, and then very strong, especially for our Filipino teens, this pakikisama. Finally, as we pointed out, the lack of moral role models in daily life. So then, anong gagawin natin, ma'am, sir? We have 30 minutes now. Here are some strategies that I'd like to share with you on how we can teach our students moral courage. I repeat, regardless of what subject we are handling. Chemistry, pwedeng ipasok ito. Science, biology, Filipino subject, social studies ang hawak mo, or even kids that you're teaching. These are strategies that can be employed by any teacher. Here is the first one. Okay? Establish a moral vocabulary. Ma'am, sir, from day one, from the first day of the school year, and we are preparing for the first day of the new school year, dapat lumalabas sa bibig natin ang mga salitang integrity, conscience, principle, justice, bravery, honesty, uprightness, truthfulness, sincerity. Dapat laging lumalabas sa bibig natin ang mga ganitong vocabulary, mga salita. Okay, class, I expect honesty in my class. Do not even think about cheating. Okay, when I give you an assignment and you are going to submit it, make sure that when you put your name there, it means it's really your work. You did not copy it, you didn't cheat. I want honesty. There, day one, dapat marinig ng mga bata dito sa ating mga bibig. And paulit-ulit. Okay, class, next week I'm going to give a quiz. Please study hard. Work hard. Don't cram. Don't even think about cheating. I expect you to be honest. Okay? Every opportunity we can get, lumalabas dapat sa mga bibig natin. Yeah, and again, I highlight, a chemistry teacher should be able to say that. A science teacher, PE teacher should be able to say that. Principle, conscience, yan. Class advisors in a special way have the very powerful capacity to be able to form, especially their students, in moral courage. The class advisor will discuss with the class, class, I received report from your math teacher. Many are doing poorly. Come on, let's help each other. Help. Let's support those who need help. Support. I mean, vocabulary that kung may nagre-record ng mga salita natin the whole day, lalabas marami doon. Virtues, values, goodness, being good and doing good. And then, especially in a special way, some subjects have the perfect platform to teach values. Literature teachers, reading teachers, panitikan teachers. We choose reading materials that will bring out values, moral courage, choosing to do right. Social studies can bring out uh, very important virtues and values from the lives of historical characters, heroes, who are heroes precisely because they had the moral courage to do good, to be good, to do what is right, even when they had to go against tyrannies, dictators, vocabulary. Use moral dilemma discussions. This is another strategy. Regularly ask students, class, what would you do if? Yan. That's a moral dilemma. They can do the right thing or the wrong thing. Let your students wrestle, debate, discuss, consider scenarios like your friend wants you to cover for him. He didn't do his homework. What would you do? Or class, let's say when I give you the chemistry exam next week, you see your seatmate cheating, bringing out a código. What will you do? Make them discuss these things, talk about them, so that the others will not be surprised that, uy, nagsumbong. Of course, because we discussed it, di ba? And we somehow had a clear understanding that this is the right thing to do. Not just to bring down someone, a classmate, but because we want to help him. Kung ngayong second year, ngayong grade 7 pa lang siya, nandadaya na, think about what he might be doing when one day he is already a barangay captain, a congressman, a company president. There, encourage respectful disagreement and values articulation. Let the students themselves speak values. That's the purpose of using moral dilemma, doing discussions of moral dilemmas. Here's another one. Celebrate acts of courage. Highlight real student examples of doing the right thing. Highlight, for example, spectacular works submitted by the students, and you are sure that they really did it, that they didn't cheat, that they did not just cut and paste it from somewhere. Every month to even highlight a quiet hero, a quiet hero award, recognition, not of grades, but of hard work, of uprightness, of truthfulness, and sincerity, honesty, or someone who stood up for victims of bullying. Or every now and then, you can even invite a guest speaker, a guest to come to your classroom or to speak to the whole school, someone who exemplifies moral courage. Whistleblowers, student leaders, people who stood up for what is right, doing what is good, even when it was a challenging thing to do. Make them do role playing and skits. Make students act out scenarios where they have to choose between right and wrong. For example, cyberbullying scene. Are you going to be a bystander or upstander? Another one, make the students do classroom contracts or codes of honor. And I know some teachers who do this. They write a 4-sentence code or code of honor. I will not cheat. I will always make sure I am upright. Just 4 or 5 sentences that you make the students memorize and recite at the start of your class, at the start of the week, or even as often as you want them to, before they start a quiz, before they start a test. In fact, I know some teachers in their test papers, meron dun sa taas mo na honor code. I will not cheat, I will not copy. And then they sign it, and then they start the exam. That you expect them. I mean, in the first place, there is that expectation. In the second place, there is that um, articulation. Nakasulat doon in black and white. Your expectation for them not to cheat, to be upright, to be truthful, to be honest. Or even better, at the start of the school year, you make the students create a draft of our class code of ethics. Yan. Make the students be the ones to draft this, and then make the students vote on which of the proposed drafts they will adopt as class code of ethics. And you put it as a poster, and then that when they enter the classroom, they see it, they're reminded. And every so often, the teacher will point to it. That's what we stand for. That is what guides us in this class. We have a code of ethics because we are upright, and we will do what is right, even when no one is looking, even when it is difficult, and even when others are not. And then have them review it, or even recite, or even memorize and take to heart. Here's another one. Create a safe space for speaking up. Like having an open door policy for ethical concerns. Class, if there is anything you need to discuss with me in private, please let me know. We can talk about it. I'm ready to listen. Or a strategy. Some schools do this. They have a box called the courage box, where people can put anonymously, they don't have to write their names, notes of injustice seen around the school. Of course, sometimes what schools have are suggestion box or feedback box. And then every now and then you check it, uy, may mga nagsusumbong dun. But that's a safe space for speaking up. I mean, people should be able to speak up because, as we have seen, moral courage is not as easy. It is not as it can be very demanding on the person, and therefore we have to make it easy for them, facilitate. The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis, sabi ni Dante Alighieri. He put it in a very poetic way, hell is paved with good intentions. May mga good intentions nga, but it just ends up to be good intentions, but they don't act on it, they don't work on it, um, they don't have the moral courage to actually perform it. So here are more strategies. Incorporate moral courage through literature and films in your discussions. Literature with characters who stood up for what is right. Noli me tangere, the Ibarra versus the oppressors. That is a way of bringing out moral courage, the lesson of moral courage, and the lesson of good people stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult, and even when they would have to go against rules, authority, but of course, learning in a special way the idea that what is good is something that is worth fighting for. To Kill a Mockingbird. That's why I mentioned earlier, Panitikan, literature, social studies, history. Those who study historical characters, historical events that highlight moral courage of specific heroes, they're in a best position, they're in a great position to especially teach moral courage to students. Even Marvel movies, Peter Parker, Spider-Man choosing responsibility over comfort and things like that. Mark Twain says, courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Okay, some teaching decision making frameworks that will bring about moral courage or learning or developing, fostering of moral courage. The three C's of moral courage. Here they are. First, conscience. Of course, we have to teach students to listen to their conscience. Sometimes we define it as God's law written in the heart of every man. That's why kahit hindi na pag-aralan sa moral theology, kahit hindi na pag-aralan sa catechism, many times the student, the person knows what is right and what is wrong because it's there in his conscience, what is truly right. To do what their conscience tells them. And then to have the conviction to do what is right and to stand by it, even when it is difficult. And in the end, what you have is a person of character, a person who has character. And so, any teacher, a teacher teaching any subject can always bring this out. Class, konsyensya naman kayo ha. Ang mga magulang nyo nagbabayad ng tuition nyo, hindi madali para sa kanila, ginagastosan nila ang pag-aaral ninyo. Gawin nyo naman yung tama. Mag-aaral naman kayo. Wag lang puro TikTok. Wag lang puro social media. Wag lang puro um, having fun. Come on. Out of makonsyensya naman kayo sa sakripisyo na ginagawa ng mga magulang ninyo. At saka makonsyensya naman kayo sa paghihirap ng mga teachers na turuan kayo. That's resorting to one of the three C's of moral courage. And then to have the conviction, and then to have the character. Here's another framework that you can follow. Pause, reflect, decide. Make the students learn how to pause before clicking on that link, before making that decision, before posting that thing that bashes a classmate, a friend, or someone anonymous. Pause. Reflect muna before you do. Diba? That's the think before you click campaign. Well, that one is only for digital citizenship, but they can apply this in everything in their life. Bago ka mag-cutting classes, pause. Pag-isipan mo muna, tama ba yan gagawin mo? Is it right? And then decide. What would my values say? What would my parents, teachers advise? What happens if everyone did this? Help students develop this framework of thinking before doing anything. But which is similar to consciensya, no? Makonsensya naman kayo. Pag-isipan nyo naman yung consequences ng gagawin ninyo. Here's another framework, the Act It framework. Awareness, know what is right and wrong. Consider what are your options. And only after thinking about the possible, how do you call that, consequences of your action, then choose the best, even if it is hard. You see, these are frameworks, meaning to say different strategies by which we can develop among the young people, among our students, the ability to do what is right, to choose what is right. Of course, most powerful, we're back to M in the primed design plan. Well, just to review, for those of you who may not have been with us in the past day sessions, primed P, is prioritization. We prioritize character building, character formation. R, relationship. I, intrinsic motivation. Gagawin ng mga bata ang tama, not because there is a reward, not because there is a punishment, but because they know it's the right thing to do. They do it. They internalize it. And then the M is for modeling. They have to see teachers as models, moral mentors, models of morals. E is for empowerment. This is what we're doing, really. We're empowering the students to be able to develop moral courage, to do the right thing, to choose what is right, even when it is difficult. We are empowering them. And what I'm doing is I'm empowering you, dear teachers. And then the D is for developmental pedagogy. All these things cannot be done overnight. We will have to be doing this with the end goal that they will develop all these for the rest of their life. They will bring this moral courage throughout their life. We're not just here for an overnight attempt at teaching. Example is not the main thing in influencing others. It is the only thing. So then, how can we do this? How can we, teachers, be moral mentors? Number one, let's walk the talk. Because integrity is caught more than taught. Teachers, students notice. Do you return lost items? Do you, teachers, keep your promises? The students take note of these things. When the teacher says, work hard, they know if you yourself actually work hard or if you take shortcuts, walk the talk. And that is the best way, that is the only way, in fact, that we can influence the young people when they see from our example. And then, every now and then, again, kahit anong subject ang tinuturuan natin, we speak up and share our own moral dilemmas. You can share with your students about that time you stood up for what is right, even if it was awkward or costly. Share your own, because surely all of us have had our own moral dilemmas. I mean, don't make public confessions that will scandalize the students, but small decisions we made in the past that we were torn. Should we do this? Should we do that? In the end, we decided to do what is right. Model what real life courage looks like. Because, sabi kanina, moral courage is in a crisis kasi wala silang role models. Well, we have to be the role models for our students. And then here's another one. Correct with kindness, not shame. Don't resort to shaming, public shaming. Show students that making mistakes is part of learning to be courageous. We have to build up, not tear down. Okay? We're ending, last 5 slides, call to action, creating a culture of courage. Let's create that kind of culture in our classroom, in our school. If there are some of you who are here together with your other co-teachers from the same school, good. Call for that faculty discussion or workshop where you can sit down and as a faculty decide, let's do these things so that we develop among our students courage, moral courage. And then in the end, it becomes a part of the culture of our school. This is how we do things here. This is what we expect of our students. So, how can we do this? Teachers' daily moral encouragements. John, thank you for being honest. Um, I appreciate very much your input. Or somebody speaks up. That took guts. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. Good job. Or you did what is right, even even if it wasn't easy. That's moral courage. Keep it up. All these should come out of our lips very frequently. That we highlight, we give premium to the courage of students to do what is right. And we appreciate it, we say it, we bring it up. Well, as I mentioned earlier, kahit anong subject pang tinuturuan natin, pwede nating i-integrate ang moral courage. History, talk about those heroes. Filipino, the characters. Panitikan, we highlight the moral choices of characters that show moral courage. Science, you can also bring up ethics of experiments and technology. Ibig sabihin ng mga estudyante, alam nila na itong teacher na to, parang talagang mas importante sa kanya ang what is good and what is right. Sabi ni Saint Francis of Assisi, start by doing what is necessary, then what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. All the strategies I've shared with you, all these ideas I've shared with you this past hour or so, Ma'am Imelda, sandali lang. Bibigay ko yung evaluation link in a while. Some of you may be thinking, ang dami naman ito, ang dami ko naman ginagawang mga dapat pag-abalhan, tapos dinagdagan pa. Well, St. Francis said, okay, start with the little things, what is necessary, and then, okay, let's close kasi it's already 3:56. Let me now first share in the chat box the link to today's certificate. Okay, so the closing reflection, as some of you are now clicking on the evaluation form and filling up the Google form, what one thing will you start doing in this new school year to build moral courage in your students? Okay, the important thing is it has to be a conscious effort. It has to be very clear in our mind, in our mindset, na hindi lang tayo dito nagtuturo ng subject, na hindi lang tayo nagtuturo ng textbook. Let's stop